Open your food delivery app right now and start scrolling. Burgers here, a poke bowl there, some wings, a taco spot, a wellness smoothie place, a late-night grilled cheese joint, a birria concept with a slick logo. Feels like you're standing in front of 40 different restaurants, right? Here's the thing that's going to bug you for the rest of the day. You might actually be looking at 6 kitchens. Maybe 5. And on some blocks in some cities, a dozen of those glowing storefronts are all the exact same guy, standing at the exact same fryer, wearing the exact same apron. He just changed the logo. Welcome to the weirdest magic trick in the restaurant business. And once you see how it's done, you genuinely cannot unsee it. Let me tell you about a real pizza shop, because it makes this instantly click. There's a place called Spinners on Bleecker Street in Manhattan. 1 physical storefront, 1 kitchen. But if you go looking for it across the delivery apps, you won't find 1 restaurant. You'll find more than 60. 60 brands. Wings under 1 name, pasta under another, sandwiches under a third. All of them cooking out of that same little pizza kitchen. The owner has basically admitted that Bleecker Street, supposedly one of the best pizza streets on earth, only actually fills up on Friday and Saturday nights. The rest of the week, the foot traffic doesn't cover the rent, the staff, and the electric bill. So he did the only thing that made the math work. He multiplied his address. 1 kitchen, dozens of doors. And here's the part that should make you sit up. He says the multiple listings are the thing keeping his whole business alive. That, right there, is the entire episode in 1 sentence. So let's pull it apart, because the economics underneath it are genuinely fascinating, and they explain a gold rush, a spectacular crash, and a quiet crackdown that most people ordering dinner have absolutely no idea happened. First, what even is a ghost kitchen? Strip away the spooky name and it's boringly simple. It's a kitchen that cooks food only for delivery. No dining room, no waiters, no hostess, no cute little tables by the window, no sign on the street because nobody's walking in. The only place the restaurant exists is inside your phone. That's why people also call them dark kitchens, cloud kitchens, or virtual restaurants. They're all pointing at the same idea. The food is real, the kitchen is real, but the restaurant, the brand you're ordering from, is basically a costume the kitchen puts on for the apps. And once you understand that, you understand why the whole thing exists. Because it's all about the cost structure of a normal restaurant, which is brutal. Think about everything a regular sit-down spot pays for that has nothing to do with the actual food. Prime real estate on a busy street because you need people to see you and walk in. And commercial rents in a lot of cities have jumped something like 19 to 24% over the past 5 years. Then the dining room itself, tables, chairs, decor, the bathroom you have to keep clean, the parking. Then the people, servers, hosts, bussers, bartenders. A traditional restaurant is spending enormous money on the experience of being there, and the average restaurant, after all of it, limps out the other end with a profit margin of around 5%. 5. Nearly 9 out of 10 restaurant operators say they're less profitable now than they were before the pandemic. It is one of the hardest ways in the world to make a buck. So somebody very reasonably asked, what if we deleted all of that? What if there's no dining room? So no decor, no bathroom for customers, no waiters, no host stand, no prime corner lot? What if we just take a cheap industrial unit in some unglamorous part of town where the rent is a fraction of the price, put a kitchen in it, and cook nothing but delivery orders? Suddenly your biggest cost just evaporated. No front of house staff, no expensive location. You don't need people to find you on the street because your customers are finding you on a screen. On paper, this looks like you took a 5% margin business and handed it a cheat code. But, and here's the twist that most people miss, you didn't actually get rid of the landlord. You just swapped which landlord you're paying. Because in a delivery-only world, your storefront isn't a building anymore. Your storefront is your listing on DoorDash and Uber Eats and Grubhub. That's your location now. And those apps charge rent too. They just call it commission, and it usually runs somewhere between 15 and 30% of every single order. So the money you saved on bricks and waiters, a big chunk of it walks straight out the door and into the delivery platform's pocket. You didn't escape the landlord. You changed his uniform. Now hold that thought, because this is exactly where the trick gets clever, and it's the whole reason for the title of this whole thing, the address multiplying part. Think about how you actually order food. You open the app, you're hungry, you scroll. You don't have a specific restaurant in mind half the time. You have a craving. I want wings, I want a burrito, something with noodles, and the app shows you a list. Now, if you're a kitchen, where do you want to be? You want to be on that list, ideally near the top, ideally in every craving. And here's the beautiful, sneaky insight the whole industry ran on. The app doesn't know or care that your one kitchen only has one set of pots. As far as the app is concerned, every brand is a separate storefront with its own listing, its own photos, its own reviews, its own little piece of screen real estate. So if you're a smart operator, why on earth would you show up as one restaurant? If you show up as one, you get one slot in one craving. But if you spin up a wings brand, and a burger brand, and a taco brand, and a salad brand, and a dessert brand, all cooking out of that same kitchen, sometimes literally from overlapping ingredients, now you're not in one craving, you're in 5. You've multiplied your shelf space. It's the digital version of a company putting 6 different cereal boxes on the same shelf so that no matter which one the customer reaches for, it's still your company. One operator described the real goal bluntly. Create as many concepts for a cuisine as possible to grab more visibility. Uber's own team had a much less flattering name for the aggressive version of this. They called it platform hacking. And you can see why it exploded. The extra brand costs you almost nothing to launch. You've already got the kitchen, you've already got the staff standing there, you've already paid the rent. A slow Tuesday afternoon where the crew is basically twiddling their thumbs, that's not downtime anymore. That's your taco brand's prime hour. You're taking capacity you already paid for and squeezing more revenue out of it. Fixed costs turned into extra income streams. That's genuinely elegant. That's the good version of this idea. So how does the money actually shake out? A typical ghost kitchen operation in the US pulls in somewhere around $250,000 a year in revenue. The best-run ones report profit margins anywhere from 10 to 30%, averaging around 15, which, remember, is triple the 5% a normal restaurant scrapes by on. So when this works, it really works. You're running lean, you're multiplying your listings, you're filling dead hours, and you're clearing a margin the traditional guys can only dream about. Which is exactly why, a few years ago, the smart money completely lost its mind over this. Between roughly 2020 and 2022, investors poured over $3 billion into ghost kitchens. $3 billion! This was the pandemic era. Nobody could sit in a restaurant, everybody was ordering in, delivery went from a nice-to-have to the entire ballgame overnight, and it looked like the future of eating had just arrived early. The projections flying around were staggering. One that got quoted absolutely everywhere claimed the global market would rocket from around $43 billion up to $71 billion by 2027. People were seriously predicting that by 2025, most new restaurant concepts would be delivery only or delivery first. It was going to be huge. It was going to eat the whole industry. And the biggest name in the room? Travis Kalanick. Yes, the guy who co-founded Uber and then got pushed out of Uber came roaring back with a company called Cloud Kitchens, buying up cheap real estate and renting out kitchen space to delivery brands. He raised around $850 million, reportedly at a valuation of about $15 billion, with Microsoft among the backers. $15 billion for a company renting out kitchen closets. Another big player, Kitchen United, raised $100 million in the summer of 2022 and struck a splashy deal to put little virtual food courts right inside Kroger grocery stores. Reef Technology was rolling out delivery kitchens in parking lots and signed a deal with Wendy's to potentially open up to 700 of them. Everybody wanted in. Celebrity brands launched. You had virtual restaurants attached to famous names slapped across the apps overnight. It felt inevitable. It felt like printing money. So, given all that hype, all that cash, all those projections, You'd think ghost kitchens completely took over by now, right? Here's where the story turns. And it turns hard. Kitchen United, that company that raised $100 million, about 15 months later, it shut down all 8 of its Kroger locations. That was 44% of its entire footprint gone in one move, and then announced it would sell or close every remaining physical location and pivot to being a software company instead. Translation? The whole real estate dream got abandoned. Cloud Kitchens, Kalanick's $15 billion baby? By early 2023, its facilities were reportedly running at only 50% occupancy, half empty. And internal numbers from a handful of its locations were brutal. Out of 71 restaurants across 5 sites, 41 of them closed within a single year. That's a 58% failure rate. More than half. Reef lost that giant Wendy's deal. Layoffs rolled through the industry in waves. The company that was going to be Ghostbusters big turned into a cautionary tale in about 18 months. So what went wrong? How does an idea with triple the profit margin blow up this spectacularly? A few things, and they're the whole lesson. The first one is embarrassingly simple. The customers didn't like it. Turns out, people are a little weirded out ordering from a restaurant that doesn't seem to exist anywhere in the real world. You go to check the reviews, you look for the address, and there's no there. The word people started using was catfished. You order from what looks like a cool new burger spot, and it shows up tasting like an afterthought from a kitchen that's cooking 11 other brands at the same time and doesn't really care about any of them. When one kitchen is juggling wings and pasta and tacos and burgers and desserts all at once, something's gotta give. And usually what gives is the food. The magic trick that looked so clever on a spreadsheet, one kitchen, many brands, was quietly wrecking quality. And a bad delivery order is a customer you don't get back. The second problem was that the economics only look amazing until you remember the app is taking 15 to 30% off the top of everything. When you're delivery only, you have 0 walk-in customers, 0 regulars who just show up, no way to reach anybody except through the apps. So you are completely, permanently dependent on the platforms, and they hold all the leverage. Every order you get, they take their cut. You've got no other front door. That's a dangerous place to build a business. Renting your entire existence from a landlord who can change the rules whenever they want. And then, the landlord did exactly that. Because all that platform hacking, one kitchen spraying out 60 near-identical brands, got completely out of hand. The apps turned into a cluttered mess of spammy, duplicate storefronts, half of them selling the same reheated wings under different logos, confusing customers and dragging down the whole experience. So the platforms cracked down. Uber Eats went in and delisted thousands of virtual brands, publicly reframing its whole approach as a pivot from quantity to quality. DoorDash rolled out rules requiring that brands actually be different from each other, at least 50% differentiated, and list a real menu of at least 8 items, so you couldn't just clone the same thing 10 times. The free-for-all that made the multiplication trick so profitable? The apps basically shut the loophole. The Wild West got a sheriff. Put those 3 together: mediocre food, total dependence on apps that take a third of your money, and a crackdown on the exact trick that made it lucrative, and the gold rush deflated. That $43 to $71 billion hockey stick projection ran headfirst into reality. Now, I want to be really honest with you about the numbers here because they're all over the place and it matters. When you read that the global ghost kitchen market is worth $70 billion or $90 billion or heading to $200 billion, take a breath. Those giant figures depend hugely on what you count. Whether you include every restaurant that runs a single side brand, every delivery-only concept, every shared kitchen. The more grounded, narrow measure of the actual dedicated ghost kitchen industry in the US puts it at a much more modest figure, on the order of a few $billion, spread across roughly 7,600 businesses. And by that measure, it's been basically flat, even shrinking slightly over the last few years, rather than exploding. So the picture isn't, this thing is taking over the world. The honest picture is, A real idea, oversold during a pandemic, that's now settling into something smaller and more sensible. Because here's the part the crash headlines miss. The idea itself didn't die. It just grew up. The version that's actually working now isn't a warehouse full of anonymous brands run by a tech company trying to disrupt dinner. It's that pizza shop on Bleecker Street. It's the sports bar that's dead on a Wednesday launching a delivery-only grilled cheese brand to make its slow nights pay. It's the existing restaurant with a real kitchen, real cooks, and real spare capacity using a virtual brand or two to squeeze extra revenue out of hours it was already paying for. That's the sustainable version. The economics work when you're adding a smart second act to a kitchen that already exists and already makes good food. And they fall apart when the virtual brand is the whole business and nobody actually cares about the burger. So the real lesson of ghost kitchens isn't delivery is fake or it's all a scam. It's something more useful than that. It's that you can absolutely use technology to multiply your storefronts, to appear in 5 cravings instead of 1, to turn a dead Tuesday into revenue, but you cannot use it to fake the actual food. The address multiplying trick is genuinely brilliant right up until the moment the customer takes the first bite and realizes the wings brand and the taco brand and the burger brand all came out of the same tired fryer. Distribution can be a trick. Dinner can't. So here's my parting gift, the thing you now can't unsee. Next time you open that app and you're scrolling past what feels like your whole neighborhood's worth of restaurants, play a little game. Look for the tells. 2 totally different restaurants with the suspiciously identical menu photos, a wings place, a tenders place, and a chicken sandwich co., all with the same delivery time, the same reviews, the same weirdly generic vibe. A brand you've somehow never heard of, that has no location you can picture, that seems to exist only right there on your screen. When you spot it, and now you will, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. Not 40 restaurants, maybe 6 kitchens, maybe 1 guy, 1 fryer, 60 logos, quietly multiplying his single address into an entire fake food court, hoping you get hungry enough not to notice. And now, you'll notice.